We do have some potential growth along the edge here. The white part is probably just hard water stain. It's more of this black spotchy stuff that I'm concerned about. Okay, we definitely got some fun stuff going on in here. What's this purple stuff you use? So I always started out with, when you leave and go on vacation or go to the park or the beach, you don't feel any different than when you come back into your home?
No.
No different?
No different.
Okay, so that's a good sign. Because typically, if you are feeling a big difference, then that means something in the home is affecting you. Do you know if you have a fresh air ventilation system? Or do you just typically keep your windows and doors open?
I do typically keep windows and doors open when I'm home.
One of the problems we see is that we're breathing off CO2, and that CO2 level is going up, and that's decreasing the oxygen that we're getting. And when it gets up above 1,500 parts per million, which is pretty easy to do, our brain cognition can reduce by up to 50%. At least 15 minutes twice a day, open up some doors and windows and get a little breeze going through.
Oh yeah, we're doing that for sure, even in the really hot days.
Okay, we have some fluorescent lights. Where are those at?
All of my main room lights are on the switchers, dimmers, yeah. Okay. And so I know that that's bad.
Well, they're the worst when they're in the middle. If they're all the way on or all the way off, then they're fine. And mold, we're not really too concerned about mold.
Well, let me tell you something. There are some places that I have a hunch there might be. I'm worried about washer and dryer.
Okay.
I'm worried about dishwasher. I'm worried about my disposal or sink. I don't know if it can hide in there. And a couple months ago, I came home from a trip and there was standing water all over my kitchen. My entire freezer quit working and all of my freezer juices and water melted. So I'm worried about mold there.
Okay.
Otherwise, I feel confident that maybe we won't find much, but I don't know. You never know.
Yeah, this is looking good. You're getting an A so far, yeah.
I have an A so far! Practice what you preach. People are like, Alex can't be that good about stuff. Well, what if I am? So how long does it take to know some of the results?
So the stuff we're sending to the laboratory, about 7 to 10 days.
Okay.
But we're gonna know a lot of information today as we go through, because we have real-time testing and then we have laboratory testing.
Okay,
that we're
cool.
doing. So I always start with outside because we want to get a background reading from outside to see what our levels are. And so we always compare the in versus out. I suspect the biggest issue in this home to probably be EMF exposure, just because we have so many people around with using a lot of technology that we can't really control. There's probably cell towers close by also. Typically on the tops of these buildings, they have radio antennas. So we're gonna see a lot of EMF exposure. Okay, all the readings in here are looking really good too. Well, the only thing that's not as good as the carbon dioxide. It's twice the amount that it is outside at 950, and outside was 450. So in the bedroom, the CO2 levels went up to 1250, probably because she spent time in here sleeping all night. The windows are not cracked. And so most of the CO2 buildup is gonna be here in the master.
Anything interesting?
Yeah, the CO2 levels in your bedroom are at 1200.
Well, I don't have those windows open often.
Yeah, you probably didn't sleep with windows open last night.
No.
Yeah, so it built up, you two both breathing in there. So you wanna make sure that you crack your master bedroom too. Does noise bother you? Road noise?
Yeah.
It does? Because we noticed with the windows open outside, we're at 56 decibels, and with the windows closed, you're at 28. So we're gonna have to find some kind of a balance there.
Okay, so basically my only option is have windows open.
What I would do maybe is I would run this thing fan to on mode, because right now it's on auto, which means it's only circulating when it's either heating or cooling.
Okay.
So right now it's not circulating
And I have
very
air
much.
off.
Yes. So if you turn this to on, it's gonna circulate all the time. So
Even
at least,
if my air's off?
even if your air conditioning's off.
Oh, so I should have this on.
Yeah, but not right now. I want that to be your new setting, because what
Okay.
that'll do is it'll pull fresh air into here and then redistribute it through your bedroom and come back out. So it's
Okay.
not a closed system. But also, even before you go to bed, open the windows in here so that when you start your night, it's nice and fresh.
See, I don't know why I was told to always have it on auto.
Because it saves a little bit of energy. So there's always a balance. Having a healthy home doesn't necessarily mean having a green home, because some of the things that we talk about, like getting fresh air in, isn't always energy efficient. So we got to have a balance.
I love that. Having a healthy home isn't always going to mean having a green home. Sometimes healthy is more important than green.
We have a radiation detector here, like a Geiger counter. Typically where we're going to see radiation inside the house is going to be from any of our natural stone. Our marble or granite countertops, depending on where they were mined in the country, can have radiation on it. Simply place this on the countertop. Now this is going to be more of a cultured stone, so we're not seeing any radiation at all.
If you were to build a new home and get new countertops, what is the best countertop to get?
So I actually will ship this to my client and have them go down to where they're picking out their stone and test it every single one and make sure
Okay,
that the one that they want doesn't have radiation. Because it's not in all of it, it's just in some of them. I had one situation where the gal had some ovary cancer and we went and tested her home, and her granite countertops were like triple the safe range, and she did a lot of cooking, spent a lot of time there, so there could have been a correlation with that.
Whoa, okay, that is freaky stuff.
Yeah. It looks like there might have been a little bit of a overflow from the water from this. Is that something that happens every time? Is there a leak from this, or is that
Not
was
that
an
I know
isolated
of.
event? So mold needs water, but also needs a food source to grow. So tile is not a very good food source, but the wood and the drywall is. So if we get a big enough leak and it starts running towards the edge here and it goes down into these cracks, that's where we're going to see the mold, because it's going to go down there. It's going to be a little crevice where the moisture can gather, and then it can get on the wood and the soak up in the wood, and then we'll see the mold growth underneath there.
Okay.
But it doesn't appear like this water has made it over there, so I'm not too worried about that. So when we see the discoloration on the ends of the wood like this, it means the water did absorb into it. We're gonna hit on the wood to disturb it, and if there's any mold spores in these cracks, it's gonna shoot up, and then we're gonna collect it with the sample.
My downstairs neighbors are gonna love this.
Yeah. What is going on up there? So with the history you told me of the house, this would really be the only place that I would be concerned about mold, other than potentially the dishwasher, washing machine, and sink. Yeah, some of these feel swollen, which is another sign of water damage in them.
Those are Mochi's bibs.
That's what he eats with.
That's what he eats with. They just came out of the dryer.
This is a moisture meter. So it'll read into the walls or into the cabinetry to see if there's any moisture behind the wood. So if there's a leak going on underneath there that we don't know about, this is gonna clue us off to that. So we're getting a little moisture around this area. So with the air sample that we did, it's gonna pick up to see if we got any kind of growth here. We do have some potential growth along the edge here. So where the seal meets the door, we can see that black stuff. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a sample of that. The white part is probably just hard water stain. It's more of this black spotchy stuff that I'm concerned about.
If there is a tiny bit of mold growth in my dishwasher, a place where I'm washing dishes, could that affect my health or not really?
It depends on what kind it is. There's thousands of different species of mold. Some of them are very harmful and some of them are not at all.
Oh.
And so if this is like a more common, like what people would call mildew, which is basically like a slang term for not dangerous mold, then it's not really an issue. And it's not really getting on your dishes. It's when you're opening it up and loading and taking dishes out, those mold spores can float up and you can breathe them in. Okay, we definitely got some fun stuff going on in here.
Okay, so what is the best way to clean in there?
So they make some things you can put down in there and it foams up and washes around, but really you need to get in there with just a cleaner and a scrubber and get a lot of that nasty stuff out of there first. Yeah, look at all that right there. That's why we always test instead of guessing. Let the laboratory tell us if we need to worry or not. What's this purple stuff you use?
Aviator Nation sweatpants. The dye gets everywhere.
Not really seeing anything nasty, but we're gonna do a sample just in case. You wanna see what's going on?
Mochi, are you helping? Are you helping look for mold?
Looks like we might have a little teeny mold starting to grow. Just clean this up. You probably even just send this through the dishwasher, not on high heat. So.
Okay.
So we're getting up higher with the carbon dioxide Look at the readings that we're at now. We got to 1700.
Is that normal for anyone whose windows are closed all the time, or there's something wrong with this apartment?
Nope, I've seen them 3,000-4,000 before in people's homes.
Jeez, and so what kinds of like physical things do people notice when you're living in that type of an environment?
So that's gonna be more of your brain fog, your irritability. You're just gonna like feel edgy. You just kind of feel like I'm not thinking as clear.
Okay.
Like, I just called somebody, who did I just call? Okay. Like that kind of stuff that goes on with the brain. Just because your brain's not getting the proper amount of oxygen. Okay, so this needs to be changed. When it starts to change colors like this, we want it to be the white. When it starts to change colors, that's when we want to switch this out.
How often should you be changing those?
It depends on how dirty the climate is. If you have a really clean climate, then you can go up to 3 months. But if you're in a really dirty area, it might be every month.
So I need to ask maintenance for a new air filter?
And this is a cheaper one. They make them that have higher filtration capabilities. So it's called a MERV rating. So the higher the MERV rating, the more particles it's gonna pull out of the air. You can tell when you can see a lot of light through it. When it's dirty like that, you can tell these are the thinner fiberglass ones. The higher MERV rating ones are gonna be closer together. They're gonna be a little thicker. They're gonna be more heavy duty. Coil, this is another place where we're gonna see mold. And it really doesn't look too bad. See how it's nice and silver and clean here, but down along the bottom, it doesn't look so good?
Yep.
Now it does look like dust, but I do wanna sample it just to make sure.
I'm actually feeling pretty good. Like, I feel like I've done a good job. I wasn't super scared about this. You know, there's a few things that are interesting that I'm learning about, like the air filter and cleaning in that garbage disposal. I think that's super important. I'm very interested to see what the tests come back from the lab saying about my wood floor. And I'm interested to see what the tests say about the garbage disposal or about the like this air filter thing. I imagine if you're living in a, 4,000 to 5,000 or whatever square foot house, then you've got a lot more hidden areas that mold could be, that this would be like a long all day process to like look at every nook and cranny. I have like such a teeny tiny 1-bedroom apartment. There's not very many places that it could be, so it doesn't take as long, but like I feel like, oh, this would be so important and critical to do if you had a family home.
This is a good hack you can do if you're going into a hotel or an Airbnb or you're looking to buy a house. Always go look in the toilet tank, because this is where mold is going to show up first. It's a dark, damp place. There's always water here. When you flush the toilet, it pulls air into it to displace the water. And if there's any mold spores in the air, it's going to start growing here first. So this is a really good, easy hack you can do to check if you have a mold problem in your house. Which is clean here. We're looking good.
I had an idea to test my makeup brushes for mold or anything else. Now, this is my liquid foundation brush from Adele Natural Cosmetics. So this has the wet stuff. So if anything has mold or anything really dangerous, it's probably this. These are all powders. But I just thought, could we test it for fun, just to see?
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing to think about too is the bacteria that can be in it. So we got dead skin cells that are sitting in there, and then we got the moisture. That's a perfect breeding ground for mold and bacteria.
That's where all the good
stuff. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay. All right. Perfect. Yeah. Mold takes about 48 hours to grow in the presence of moisture. So if these are staying wet continuously, it could be a breeding ground for mold.
Okay. Now, obviously I just need to wash my makeup brushes, but I am curious.
We'll find out. So I recommend testing your water at least once a year to see what kind of contaminants we have. A lot of tap water in the United States is showing up with microplastics and pharmaceuticals and chemicals. So it's really important to test to see what we're drinking, and not only what we're drinking, but what we're showering and bathing can also affect us. We're gonna be using a meter here that measures the electric fields. We have a device in here, the air conditioning unit. So you can see we're pretty high. Really not a big concern because it's not in the high use area. It's not next to a bed. It's not next to the couch. So we're not too worried about it. Just because we have EMF in the house doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. What we're looking for is where we're spending the most amount of time. If we have high levels in this area, we need to figure out why and what we can do to turn them off. So you hear a lot, to reduce EMF exposure, we want to put the phone on airplane mode when we're not using it, but you want to be cautious because a lot of times if you just simply hit airplane mode, you got to make sure that all 3 of these go to blacked out. That means that Bluetooth is still transmitting, but it just means that it's not connected. So in this case, we have to go into settings, go to actual Bluetooth and turn it off from here. So what it looks like when we pull it down is all 3 of these are blacked out. That's true airplane mode, and that's how you want your phone to look. One thing that a lot of people use is AirPods, and those can be especially dangerous because they're literally inches away from our brain. And so when we have one on each side of our head, our brain's right in the middle, and we're literally cooking our brain from these AirPods from both sides. So it's really important to switch those out to something wired because we're getting a lot of exposure from these AirPods.
So how did I do?
So you did really good. You did
Okay.
really good. Yes, it checked out really good, except for one thing.
What?
The EMF levels. But that's hard because you're in an apartment complex, you're in the middle of the city, so it's really hard to get low EMF levels when you have all these people around you that you really can't control. You have a neighbor right on the side of this wall that probably has a Wi-Fi router, and then one on the other side of that wall has a Wi-Fi, and one above us, one below us. So all of those are adding together to give us this overall EMF. And we checked out your makeup brush, which is really cool. We're gonna see if there's any mold on that. And the leak in the kitchen, we're gonna see what's going on with that. But we won't know those for about a week.
Okay, so it's been a couple weeks and I got my results back from Ryan after testing all those areas of my apartment. So makeup brushes tested negative for mold. Washer and dryer tested negative for mold. We did find a little tiny bit of mold in my garbage disposal and in my dishwasher there at the entrance where he said it might be. But he said it's nothing like you need to move out of your house for. It's just like needs wiped down with soap and water. So easy to fix, good to know, right? What is kind of concerning and something that I'm gonna use probably to break my lease and just get a new place is that water damage in my wood floor. I had a hunch. He said basically all the flooring needs to be replaced, which is gonna be really time consuming, or move out. It did test high for like the second most dangerous type of mold. So it's not black mold, but there's another one that's just as bad. That is not something you wanna mess with. And basically it wasn't terrible when you weren't walking on those areas, but when he was like hitting it, or if I'm walking on it or something, then those particles kind of come up and you breathe them in. So for me and for Mochi, no bueno, we've got to get a new place. So kind of exciting. I think this means I get to go apartment shopping.
I interviewed Ryan, so you can go back to Culture Apothecary and watch or listen to the full-blown interview where I ask a lot more questions submitted by you guys about, mold exposure and toxins in your home, but I'll do a couple here. Now I know a whole home air purification system is best, but for like stand-up air purifiers for individual rooms, what brands do you like the best?
So as far as air filtration brands, my favorite one is called Jasper. And just because it looks the best, it's low EMF, actually no EMF.
And then for my size apartment, do you think that just one is enough, or do you have to have one for like out here at the living area and then one for the bedroom?
I would do one out here and one in the bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah, so wherever you're spending more than a couple hours, that's considered a high use area. You want to really focus on that area.
Okay, that's good to know. Top 3 places mold is hiding that nobody thinks about.
Probably one is the toilet tank.
Oh.
That's a big one.
Did we check mine?
We did.
And it was okay?
You passed.
Okay.
Yeah, people that are listening right now, go check your toilet tank. That's a good indication you may have a bigger problem. Another one is going to be the front load washers. I always see it in that front little part. Whenever you're using front load washers, you got to make sure you're leaving that door open to allow it to air out and dry out.
Okay.
The other place I would say is going to be in the air conditioning coil. A good portion of the time we see some mold growing in there, and that needs to be serviced regularly.
The average family home in America, how much would it cost to have Test My Home come out and do these tests on their house?
We do a lot of stuff virtually, and we have a kit that we can send out to people if you're willing to do a little bit of the work yourself, and that kit is $3,000. But if you want us or the full team to come out and spend all day and go through it, it's 10 to 15,000 plus travel, depending on where you live and how big the home is.
Thank you so much for coming out and doing this. It helps for me to like understand so I can talk to other people about it. The peace of mind is so worth it, I think, especially if you have small kids. But for more with Ryan on all things home toxins and mold and what to look for and all of that, listen to our episode on Culture Apothecary, and then we'll put in the description how you can hire Test My Home to test your home.